And, we've been having this super interesting conversation behind the scenes, as we always do, about apocalyptic thinking. So today, the title of the episode is The Apocalypse Getting You Down. Yeah, right? But it's a funny title, but actually the results of it, the effect of it is not so funny. The effect of it really is fear that we've been seeing in everybody we know around us. So, Bill, let's start out by talking about what is apocalyptic thinking. Let's break down the kinds of things that have people thinking, end of the world, that everything that we know is stopping or blowing up or ending.
It's really, I like the way that you put it, apocalyptic thinking.
Yeah.
Because this has been around since I was a child, and I know it was going on way before that. I mean, if you look back, right, in all kinds of historical text, people talk about the end of the world, and in my lifetime, we used to hide under our desks when
Right.
it was like they would have a siren, and if the Russians were going to nuke us, and it was, and then you would get under your desk. That was going to do a lot of good because it had so much shelter for me under my desk. and then there was, the AIDS epidemic. And I'm not making light of this in any way, shape, or form, but the apocalyptic thinking was literally, we're all going to die. We're going to get this, and we're all going, whoever you are, you get in vicinity, maybe they touched your apple pie, and then now, you don't know. And then there was Y2K.
Yeah.
Some of these kids today, they're listening to this Y2K. What are they're like, what was that? Y2K was the year 2000. My gosh, we were going to die. I mean, that was it. All the computers were going to, there was a glitch because of
it had to do with the dates. Yeah, it had to do with the dates and this never really made sense. So I think it was a hoax, but supposedly computers, really started in the 80s, and that the date didn't go past the year 2000. By the year 2000, we were in the computer age. Everything was connected. Our banking, TV. I mean, there was the start of the internet. So if all the computers went down, that meant the end of everything. It never really made sense at all that the computer could do all these amazing things, but it didn't know what the date was. So I had been raised in a religion that had real apocalyptic thinking. And so by this time, I was not having it. So my husband and I, we went to Las Vegas for Y2K, and it was empty, absolutely empty.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, it was down to about a quarter of the number of people that were normally there. People weren't flying because they were certain that airplanes were now computerized. They were going to drop out of the sky. And it was really fun. There were concerts going on everywhere that they were recruiting people to come into the concerts because they were empty. And they had big, big stars. All the classics were there. The only one that they didn't have to recruit anybody was Cher, because Cher was having, oh, no, sorry, it was Barbra Streisand. Barbra Streisand had made a return to the stage, and hers was full, but all the rest were empty. And so they were going around the casinos trying to get people to come in. But people stopped their lives for that. They huddled in their houses, and it was really a great, big, giant nothing. But there was real fear.
Very big fear. Very big fear. And it didn't stop there. Like, we had the 2012.
2012, that's right.
I was like, oh my God, for sure. That's it. The Mayans predicted it. And for sure, it's going to go off the rails. You can just forget it.
But they really didn't predict anything. Again, the calendar ended. The calendar ended in 2012. So they were 100% certain that was the end of the world, except for whose calendar? They weren't working off the Gregorian calendar. The Gregorian calendar was instituted, I think, somewhere around the 14 or 1600s. Somebody, if you know the answer to that, but it was shifted, and we were shifted out of what had been the Jewish calendar that the Eastern world was using. So whose calendar? I think the Mayan calendar was one that was based on solar and planetary movements. But that, again, was going to be the end of the world. And that there's still theories that the world really did end, and we're in a different timeline after 2012.
Well, things sure have gotten off on some weird tangents.
Right?
Weird tangents, that's for sure. But it seems to me that it's, we had so many events, the swine flu, the I don't know, some bird flu. There was some sort of avian bird flu, and it was for sure going down. It was as if it was kind of like the COVID thing, but it was like, oh no, we're gonna for sure die. But then it really didn't gain momentum.
Yeah.
But it was reported on as if, oh, for sure, there's no way out. You're not going to make this. I remember, what was that one? There was the rat. There was some sort of flesh-eating bacteria from rat feces that all of a sudden started taking off. And people were like, their skin's falling off and, and they're dying and stuff. And I was
yeah.
How are you gonna get away from that one,
Yeah. Well, it's really nothing new. And for many of us, like I mentioned, it's ingrained in our religious DNA. And, for many, many years, since people started studying Revelations, they have been preparing for Armageddon, or, a God and Satan type of war that would affect humans. And it would be the end of this system of things, right? And so from that, there's the rapture that people believe in. There's just full out Armageddon. Some people believe it's actually the end of the planet. And so this has been very popular for many, many years. And it's a tool that is used to keep people in line. If the end is happening right now, you better get your act together. You better get to church. You better repent. You better pay up your tithing. Like, you need to get right with God right now. It's like sales. It creates urgency, right? So it is a tool. Whether you believe it's true or not, it's one of those tools. And so a lot of weird things start to happen. And apocalyptic thinking, it's hard to say, isn't just fear. There's some other things that happen. In the religion that I was a part of, and many are like this, there were multiple times over the last century when people thought it's now. They predicted it's now. The things that are happening in the world add up to right now. And it's very, there's so many things that are happening all the time that you could put that time into any moment in history. World War I, World War II, the Crusades, like all of that. So there were multiple times when people, for example, racked up all their credit cards because they were certain they were going to have to pay them off because the end was happening. So that was one strange thing people did. Another thing is people didn't put their kids in school because they weren't going to need that education. They didn't go to college. Some people didn't even put their kids in grade school because they weren't going to need that education because the end is now. And I think for some people, there's a hope that it's going to end right now. And for others, it's this terrible fear. I remember for myself when I was a kid, our church was very graphic about what Armageddon was going to look like. And I remember having these dreams of the sky turning all purple and, watching the thing come. So it's embedded, it's ingrained in all of us. And right now, there's so many things happening at once that people are really ramping up this apocalyptic thinking. There are wars, all kinds of them. We just went through a pandemic. We're having craziness in the United States around politics. Politics are going crazy. The word that you hear is everything's going crazy. And I think for so many people, the fear is ramping up to maybe a critical level for people's mental health and for their physical health.
It's true. And, it seems that there's a concerted push to this. The media has always fed on fear. If you look objectively at any broadcast, any day of the week, 365 days of the year, it all has the same format. There's some sort of, something's going wrong, and also that this is significant. What is going on is going to affect you, and it's pretty significant. And it doesn't look like really there's a way out. And the weird thing is that it's like never ending. And then at the end of the broadcasts, there's always some little thing where it's like, the fire department rescued a cat today. Look, the kitty's okay, out of a tree.
Bill, that shows how long you've actually watched, since it's been that you've actually watched real news. They don't even do that anymore.
That's not even a thing.
That's not a thing. Very rarely.
Seriously, I haven't watched the news in forever because I know what, it's all just really pumping up the fear like crazy.
Yeah, it used to be that there were always these editorial pieces, there was the feel-good story, there was a format to news that kind of showed you what was going on. And then, some more things that were just benign, what trends and things like that, stories. And, and then they were always wrapped up with something great. And it's not like that anymore. Around 2016, I started to notice a pattern in the news. The education that I have made me aware of what was going on. And I noticed that each broadcast would have two conflicting stories going at once. The talking head would be saying one thing, and then the picture they showed didn't necessarily match it. And then the ticker tape below had something else going on. Well, this is intentional to make the nervous system scattered, feel fear. What do I pay attention to? Which thing is right? There's a message that is being sent out that's directed, but it depends on which piece you're paying attention to, what you get out of it. But the result is this fear state. And it's just ramped up since then. So our recommendation has been for a long time, stay off the news. Stay off the news. If something crazy is going on, I guarantee you someone's going to tell you about it.
Yeah, that's true. Oh my gosh. Yeah, people know that I don't watch. So I do, occasionally I get these things and people, call me or text me. And it's like, I know you don't watch the news, but, this is going on. And I was like, oh, okay. All right. But it is elevated to such levels now that it's really making people very unstable. And it used to be that it was the 5 o'clock news or the 6 o'clock news. Now it's 7:24.
Yeah, it is. The networks that are around the clock that people are watching. That is really a good point. Let's take our first break. We'll hear from the good folks at the UK Health Radio Network. When we come back, we'll talk about a few other things that are happening because of apocalyptic thinking and fear that may be affecting you right now. So let's hear from the good folks at the UK Health Radio Network. And we're back. We're talking about, is the apocalypse getting you down? Here's something that's happening, Bill, that really is affecting people right now. And in the US, there's an election happening, plus all the wars, plus everything else that's going on. The weather, you know, climate change, all those things. But it always happens for us every 4 years during an election year when people get so afraid that they stop spending money, and then businesses start to struggle, and then inflation goes up again. And it makes it very difficult for all of us. And so there'll be this news about this as well. It's one of the things that really gets people afraid, is what's going to happen to their money. Another thing that's been happening is that all of a sudden the dollar is going to be worth nothing, and you know, you have to have crypto. And so for that reason, people have sort of stopped spending money, and it really slows the economy. And when this happened back in 2008 here in the US, I had a thought: where did all the money go? Where did it go? Did it leave the planet? Well, we know that it did not, right? The money's still out there. And then you start hearing that during a recession, specifically, billionaires are made. So it implies that there's a group of people who can see beyond the fear and the current situation and start investing and buying and creating businesses that on the other side of this recession, they're booming. And I think if people were able to stop and just hear this one thing, the money didn't leave the planet. It's just not circulating the way it did. And each of us play a role in that, in being afraid, holding back a little bit, hoarding in a way, so that we're safe. And I wonder if that's not intentional, that every so many years there's a recession created so more billionaires can be created. So that kind of leads us into, what can you do about this? How can you be the kind of person that actually thrives during this time? That actually your consciousness gets greater. Your relationships get deeper. That's another thing. People lost so many relationships during the 2020 to 2023 period. You know, how can you grow relationships, friendships? How can you actually become healthier during this time? How can you ride this wave like every other wave that came before it? Don't you think the first part is having an awareness, Bill?
You know, the very, very first thing is, as you say, just, you know, starting it with that awareness that this is cyclical and that it's been going on forever. You know, there was the Great Depression, and some of the most wealthy people were made during that period of time. Now, if you, me, anyone, literally, just if you get in your car or walk down the street, you can see there is all these people shopping, moving around, filling their gas tanks. They're doing things. And everybody is out there like, oh gosh, no, the sky is falling, you know, Chicken Little, that tremendous fear. And the reality is the machine is still working. Go into the grocery store. You've got to eat. You're going to go to the grocery store, and I want you to look down the shelves. You're pushing your cart down the shelf, and look. The shelves are full, and people got their carts, and they're pushing them through, and they're paying their money, and they're leaving. And the system of all this food had to go from the farmers to the packing plants. The salespeople had to sell it. The shelf stockers had to put it on the shelf. You know, the truckers had to truck it in. All of it had to happen. And if you happen to go on the freeway where I live, California, There is an absolute sea. When I look at it, when I'm there on the freeway, there is a sea going both ways. I see the lights on one side and the red lights on the other. It is, everyone out there is actually working, buying, selling, consuming. Everything is actually working. But people, they get the fear because they're watching the media, and it's like, oh my God, oh my God. And then, layoffs happen or whatever, and somebody at the top starts getting fearful, and of course, there you go.
Well, let's talk about a couple of just shifts in perspective. The shift in perspective, the way that you view this, has an automatic change on how your nervous system views it, and vice versa. This fear sensation in the body, you can also recognize that, and it can help you change your perspective. If you were to jump from, let's say, 1850 into today, and you were to just look around and see, think about just the Tesla car, fully electric. It looks like a spaceship inside. Look at the ability to fly around the world, completely around the world in a day. Look at the ability to pick up the mini massive computer that all of us have, our cell phones, and you can call someone thousands of miles away and see their face in real time, right? Every house, even the poorest homes, have a refrigerator where we can store the massive abundance of food that we have in our grocery stores. We can buy, I was eating grapes from Chile the other day, and they're fresh and beautiful and ripe because of refrigeration. That is so common that some women have little mini refrigerators in their bathrooms. My son has a little mini fridge. It's, 12 by 12 in his bedroom. So common, right? If you were to leap forward, what you would think is that this planet should be a utopia. We should be in a place where we don't have illness, where we don't have homelessness, where we don't have war anymore, because everything is so magnificent in terms of the kinds of things that we've created now and what we have. If you think about that, that's a massive perspective shift. Each and every one of you who has the ability to hear my voice today has more than a pharaoh had in ancient Egypt, most likely, as far as we know, right? He didn't have a car. He didn't have any air conditioning, right? He didn't have the ability to listen to someone somewhere else in the world share information, but we do. If you stop and look at the world in a completely different way, instead of looking at it in absolute and utter chaos, look at the beauty, look at the things we can do now, because we're not out having to chase down every meal, at least most of us. We're not having to farm. We're not having to prepare for the winter. Most of us don't build our own houses. Someone else does all of that. So think about how really incredible it is right now. People talk about Atlantis. We're it. We're the thing. The thing we're missing is the supposed consciousness, but we can have that if we shift our perspective. Isn't that an amazing thing to think about?
It really is. Today, the absolute wealth, overwhelming abundance of information. You remember back in the day, you would have to go to a doctor and you'd be like, well, what does it look like? And they're like, oh, that's a what, blah, blah, and you're like, well, okay, doctor. And today, people can go online and get tons of information and tons of perspective on the particular disease and all kinds of nuances and the drugs that are used to treat it and other side effects, everything's available to you today. And that's just one thing. You know,
Yeah.
your communications, instantaneous. And this goes on and on and on. And the varieties of products you can get, from everything that we actually eat and drink to all of our self-care products. It's unlimited.
Oh my gosh. Shampoo, skincare products, right?
Unlimited.
Neosporin. Think about Neosporin. In other parts of the world, it's called something else. But the little antibiotic ointment you use, if you get a scratch or a blister, that might have killed a person before.
Yeah, just like that. But with all of these things, with all of these advancements, with all of these comforts, we still have this apocalyptic thinking. And why? Well, twofold. It's something that I guess maybe inherent to a human, to kind of like, oh, the fear of death, the fear of the death of everybody all at once. And so that's one side of it. And then, there's the other side of it. Why is there such incredible interest on the part of media in promoting it when it's really not true?
I know why, Bill McKenna. And everybody is going to love and hate this. What do humans do for entertainment? We like roller coasters. They scare the crap out of us. Books that we read always have a big climactic moment where, the hero's gonna die. They're on the edge. There's certain death. Or, the love affair is about to fall apart any minute. Think about how many years soap operas have gone on. If a soap opera were all airy-fairy unicorns and butterflies, it would have ended in the first 5 minutes. We love it. We love our conflict and our contrast. The biggest movies, people are being blown up. The end of the world is happening. Even though we believe the end of the world is happening now, an apocalyptic movie will fill seats. You would think it would be the exact opposite. Everyone would be terrified, so terrified. They're running in the streets with their hair on fire, but they're not. They want more. We love it. We love conflict. We love contrast. I want you to think about it for yourself. Some of you, the spiritual types, are out there and like, oh, I want peace. But you watch butterflies and rainbows for 5 minutes, and you tell me if you're not looking for something to happen. And I'll tell you, I've tried this. I watched a documentary about butterflies, and right in there, here comes the contrast, the conflict. They have to fly from the US all the way down, and they may die. And the poor butterflies, and then there's a hurricane. And even in a butterfly documentary, there is conflict and contrast. If you are aware of this, you can start to look at it like a roller coaster ride. It's going to end. But did you have fun getting there? It's a complete shift in thinking, right?
It's a very different thing. I love that term where, every movie has one thing in common. Every movie you ever watched has one common denominator. Something goes wrong.
It has to.
Something has to go wrong. And look at your life, all of us, something went wrong. And we do this. So there is, I guess, this natural attraction. And what could be more, exaggerated than an entire apocalypse? It goes wrong for you, and it goes wrong for every other living thing.
Yeah. And in all these stories, there's a hero. So let's take our second break. We'll hear from the good folks at the UK Health Radio Network. And let's ask this question. Let's pose it. Are you the leader that helps everybody out? You know, there's always some person who stays calm in the story and knows how to fix it. Or could you just be the person that rides the wave like a surfboard or a roller coaster? So when we come back, let's talk about how we can do either of those things, Bill McKenna. So for now, let's hear from the good folks at the UK Health Radio Network. We're back. We're talking about, is the apocalypse getting you down? So Bill, tell everybody, what is the first thing about sensation that people can do to start actually have some control over this, where it's not just a reaction?
Well, this is a really good question. The very first thing is to actually notice that this fear that you're having is an actual sensation in your body. You know, most of us just don't even notice the sensation portion of the fear, other than, I don't like how I feel right now. I will do just about anything to get out of this feeling. Which kind of, just a quick comment regarding why one would instill fear in another, is because fear is a massive motivator. People get very motivated by fear. Like, I feel this fear, and if you've got an opportunity for me not to feel it, you know, I'm in. So this is kind of a control mechanism that's out there. Now, if you don't feel that fear, if you literally don't feel it, then you have the ability to go from your perception to perspective. You have the ability to open up to many more possibilities. Now, Liz had said at the start of this that there are millionaires and billionaires made during these catastrophic events. You know, during the downturns, there's other people who end up doing extraordinarily well. Well, they are the people who went from perception, and the perception was, I have a feeling. So if I have a feeling, this is a perception, and I will think thoughts equal to that feeling, and my world will basically be ruled by that, and the masses of humanity follow that. Now, you're going from the perception to perspective, you're absent your fear. And now you see so many possibilities, so many other opportunities. You're aware of, hey, this is a possibility over here, but you're also aware of many other possibilities. And kind of like many of these people, you know, that end up profiting immensely, is the perspective that I've been through a lot of these. They've, you know, if you're alive right now, you just went through one, and you're here. You're actually here right now. And you probably have been through others of them. You were probably alive in 2012. You made it through. You were alive maybe in 2008 when, oh my gosh, there was the most extraordinary collapse. The government saved the day, you know, that type of thing. And you lived through the avian flu, the swine flu, the AIDS epidemic, all of it. And there's so many more that I can't even list, because they come out, you know, every few months you got a new one to add to the pile. So The thing is when you witness this feeling or sensation in you, there's numerous ways to start to get control over it.
Would you share with everybody, just expand a tiny bit more about the sensation? That's the important part. I think that people are nowadays with anxious feelings. You hear a lot of people saying, I'm anxious all the time. Don't realize that that is a reaction in the body of fear. So would you help people think about how to check their body to know if this is running in their system, even though they might be unaware of it?
This is a really good point. Some people, you can't tell where people actually feel this. You can't make a rule about it. Some people, they feel it in their heart as heavy. Other people feel it in their solar plexus, their stomach area, as like a jittery feeling. Some people literally feel it all over their body, like an immense amount of energy that's making them shaky. Some people feel it as cold. So for each person, it's a little bit different. It's a little bit different. But if you pay close attention, you will notice, oh, actually, this is how I feel it. Now, know that everybody's not the same. They feel it in different areas, different sensations, but ultimately, it's about fear. I had one client who had like a golf ball sensation under his right lung, right under the rib cage. And that little golf ball sensation there would literally cause a panic attack. That one thing that was associated, panic attack, like can't breathe, the whole going to the hospital situation. So it's different. Now, the real question here is what kind of gift can I give you right here and right now?
But let me just reiterate. So you're talking about that fear is not necessarily your racing thoughts, that it is a physical sensation. And that's step one. Check in with your body, right?
Yes.
Thoughts get off the rails. They go crazy. They go everywhere. But if you can ground yourself in the physical and check in, how is my body doing fear? That's step one. Sometimes just in the recognizing of it, it collapses. But let's move on to that. If you recognize it, you know it's there. My body is doing a thing called fear. It's reacting, right? It's just a reaction. Now let's see if that reaction actually is validated, if it's worth reacting to, and how to change it.
So Cognomovement is made up of hundreds of exercises that can help you to downgrade your fear. When you no longer feel the sensation in your body, you'll have all new thoughts. So how would I accomplish this? One very simple technique is to notice the tension in your body, that you literally, somewhere in your body, there is physical tension. Now, all you have to do is to begin to relax the physical tension. One technique that we utilize with Cognomovement is to simply rotate your eyes across the ceiling, down the right wall, across the floor, and up the left wall. And you slowly rotate your eyes while finding the tension point. Now, that's all you're doing. I'm not saying, hey, don't pay attention to the finance or the virus of the day or you name it. All I'm saying is find the tension, relax the body. Now, if you've had a baby, if you played football, if you were a person who did yoga or martial arts or any gymnastics, you know how to relax your body. It's your body. Just relax and slowly move your eyes. What you're going to find is this is going to downgrade that sensation.
So why, Bill? Why, if I notice my body and I move my eyes, what does that actually do?
This is really interesting. Well, first, when you move your eyes, every position of your eyes is different parts of your brain. You are activating other parts of your brain as you are moving your eyes. You know, the simple way to validate this for yourself is when you're going to cry or you see somebody who's going to cry, where do they look? They look down. And when somebody wins something, you know, they're in this divine experience, they're looking up. They're looking up. These are literally different parts of the brain.
And
Now,
different perspectives, right?
Different perspectives. So we're going from perception to perspective, and we're moving our eyes. So we're basically giving our brain an opportunity to look at this from different angles.
And it's novel, right? There's a way that your body normally does fear. If you try this on, your body has never done fear that way. It's novel, and it has the ability to collapse that particular pattern, which gives you the ability then to choose something else. Because in fear, normally you can't choose. You're on autopilot. But now you have the ability to choose. And the people who become the hero in the story, who lead everybody out, they're the ones who have the ability to do this. Change the pattern, right, Bill?
Exactly. We're just simply changing it. With this simple technique, you can start to get mastery over your life, because know that most of the people around you have no control of their fear. It just is. It literally is. They may be taking medication to try to drown it out, smoking pot, drinking, whatever, so that they don't have to feel it. Imagine not having to do any of those drugs that are pharmaceuticals or alcohol or marijuana, so that you don't feel that way. You just literally use your natural mechanism right here, relax your body, move your eyes. Simple as that.
Yeah, it really is extraordinarily simple. I know that people don't believe that because you think your fear is quite real. But if the one thing you take from this today is that maybe look at this differently, look at the fear, look at what's going on around you differently, and just try this exercise on, see what can change. We really think it's important for somebody to become the hero, and you can be it of your story, at least take control. And so for that reason, we really want to encourage you to go to cognomovement.com, look at our Essentials program, which will teach you exactly how to do this for yourself and for your family. So at least at a minimum, you're not a victim of a big story that you don't choose to be a part of. So Bill, we have run up against the end of our time today for the UK Health Radio. I want to thank everybody for being here with us. I want to encourage you to really take control of this time in your life and start to have some fun again. Start to make it exciting. Thanks for being here with us, Bill McKenna.
Thank you.
Everybody in UK Health Radio land, be safe and be well, and we'll see you next time.